Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating story that perfectly illustrates how small habits completely compound over time. We always kind of think that changing our lives requires these massive, dramatic actions, right? But the source material we're exploring today proves something entirely different. It's a story of how one incredibly simple habit, practiced in the most unexpected place imaginable, literally reshaped people's futures over the course of 4 decades. So, let's break down exactly how one tiny, consistent choice snowballed into these extraordinary outcomes.
What if one simple question could completely change the direction of your life? Just think about that for a second. We live in this crazy world filled with expensive life coaches, endless self-help seminars, and honestly, multi-step productivity systems that require a spreadsheet just to wake up in the morning. But the answer to actually changing your trajectory, it doesn't require a long, drawn-out speech, and you definitely don't need to spend thousands of dollars on advice. You don't even need to overhaul your entire personality. It literally just requires a single, focused question. And the genius of this is in its sheer simplicity. It's so powerful that the people who heard it remembered it for absolutely decades.
And that brings us to the number 45. This represents Benjamin. Now, Benjamin wasn't a CEO, he wasn't some famous author, and he certainly wasn't wealthy. He was just an ordinary guy who spent 45 years working in the oldest little barbershop in his city. Just picture it, right? The classic striped pole turning out front, walls plastered with faded old photographs, and that nostalgic smell of shaving cream. For almost half a century, he stood right by his chair. But here's the really wild part. People traveled from miles and miles away, completely bypassing dozens of other barbers just to sit in his specific chair. And no, it wasn't because he gave the world's greatest fade. While most barbers were just making small talk about the weather, Benjamin was doing something completely different.
Okay, let's dive into this. Every single customer who sat in Benjamin's chair got the exact same post-haircut routine. He'd finish the cut, carefully brush away the loose hair, give them this really warm smile, and then he would ask, "What is one thing you'll do this week that your future self will thank you for?" I'm actually going to pause here for a second so you can try to answer that in your own head. It's totally disarming, right? When he asked this, some people would just laugh and brush it off or kind of shrug indifferently. A lot of people honestly didn't know what to say, but Benjamin never pushed. He never judged. He'd just smile and gently say, "Think about it."
The real-world ripple effect of this is just astonishing. Let's take Adam, for example. Adam was this super nervous college student who walked into the shop one afternoon just looking completely defeated. He admitted to Benjamin that he was literally about to drop out of school because he just bombed several major exams. So Benjamin quietly finishes the haircut and then, right on cue, drops his famous question. Adam just sits there in silence. Finally, he looks up and goes, "I guess I'll study one more week before deciding?" Benjamin just nodded, said it was a good gift for his future self. And wow, that micro-commitment, just studying for one more week, changed everything. Years later, Adam walked back into that exact same barbershop, not for trim, but to show Benjamin his graduation gown. He was so close to giving up, but that single question stopped him dead in his tracks.
And what's so cool is how perfectly this question scales to totally different life situations. Take this highly successful businessman who came into the shop every single month. On paper, the guy was absolutely thriving, but he worked nonstop and practically never saw his family. He was completely burning out. So Benjamin asked the question, and the man doesn't pitch some grand business strategy. He just quietly says, "I'll have dinner with my children tonight." Just a few months later, that same high-powered executive told Benjamin that those family dinners had quickly become the absolute happiest part of his entire life. Do you see the pattern here? Benjamin never told anyone what to do. No unsolicited advice whatsoever. He just used this one structured question to help them remember what actually mattered to them.
And this didn't just work on adults either. One Saturday, this little boy comes in for his very first haircut. When Benjamin hits him with the question, "What will your future self thank you for?" the kid puffs up his chest, gives this huge proud smile, and announces, "I'll be kinder to my little sister." Everybody in the shop had a good, gentle chuckle at how sweet it was. But Benjamin just smiled and told him it might be the greatest decision he ever makes. And the source material shares something really amazing. Years later, that exact same little boy grew up to become a children's doctor. He carried the weight of that simple promise, made in a tiny barber's chair, for his whole life. It literally shaped his sense of empathy and his entire career.
And this brilliantly illustrates the true depth of what Benjamin was doing. See, after 45 years, Benjamin finally decided to retire. And the new barber who bought the shop was clearing out this dusty old cabinet in the back room. Guess what he finds? Hundreds of these tiny handwritten cards. Each one had an answer from a customer over the last 4 decades. Things like, "Forgive my father," "Save money," "Stop drinking," call my mother, chase my dream. Benjamin had quietly, meticulously written down every single answer. He wasn't doing it to judge them, he kept them as a private physical reminder that absolutely everyone who walked through his door was fighting a tough, unseen battle.
Well, when the neighborhood heard Benjamin was retiring, there was no way they were just going to let him slip away quietly. They organized this massive surprise celebration. Former customers flew in from all over the country just to be there. We're talking firefighters, teachers, artists, pilots, nurses, carpenters, just a complete cross-section of humanity. And one by one, they stood up in front of this huge crowd to share their stories. They talked about how Benjamin's simple, structured question had basically acted as a compass for them, guiding them through some of the hardest, darkest, and most confusing times of their entire lives.
As these folks were sharing their incredible, life-changing stories, Benjamin is just sitting there, totally overwhelmed, quietly wiping away a tear. And true to form, always humble, he tried to brush off the praise. He told the crowd, "I only asked one question." But then this elderly woman in the crowd gave him a soft smile and pointed out a really profound truth. She said, "Yes, but you asked it at exactly the right time." And man, that is the secret sauce right there. It wasn't just about the self-reflection, it was about the intervention. By asking that question every few weeks, Benjamin provided this totally predictable, safe space for people to just hit the pause button on their chaotic lives and recalibrate.
So the crucial point is Benjamin's ultimate lesson. We so often paralyze ourselves because we're convinced that success or happiness requires these giant sweeping life changes, like quitting your job overnight, moving across the world, or completely reinventing who you are. But Benjamin's 45 years of quiet data collection proved the exact opposite. Life is actually transformed by small, manageable daily decisions. Those giant leaps, they're usually rooted in ego or panic. It's the small choices, like studying for one more week, eating dinner with your kids tonight, being kind to your sibling. Those are the quiet, everyday actions that actually compound into a truly extraordinary life.
So how do we actually apply this to our own lives right now? Listen to me, you do not have to change your entire life today. Seriously, that is a trap. Instead, just try this. Step 1. Ask yourself Benjamin's question every single week. Build it into your routine. Step 2. Pick a small, and I mean ridiculously small, action. Read literally one page of a book. Save $1 single. Make that one overdue apology. Take a 10-minute walk. The goal is to keep the friction incredibly low. And step 3? Just do it today. If you follow those simple steps, you are intentionally building a solid bridge to a better future version of yourself, just one tiny brick at a time.
As we wrap up this explainer, I'd highly recommend hitting subscribe to Gravonix Stories so you don't miss out on our weekly motivational explainers. But even more importantly, I want you to make a micro-commitment right here, right now. Drop down to the comments and type, "I will live with purpose." Just put that energy out into the world. Because remember, your future isn't created by chance, and you definitely shouldn't wait around for some giant strike of inspiration. It is created entirely by the small, intentional choices you are making today. So ask yourself, if you were sitting in Benjamin's barber chair right now, what would your answer be?